Hello and welcome to another episode of Daily Cricket Presents Crick Talk, a podcast that is based only on English from Atif Azam, the Crick Buzz Bangladesh correspondent, and myself, Mohammad Isam, Bangladesh correspondent of ESPN Crick Info. Crick Talk is available on Spotify audio, YouTube video, and on Facebook. Today we will rush into all our topics. We'll have a whole host of things to talk about. I will head off to my co-host Atif Azam straight away. Cricket is coming thick and fast. Atif bhai, Bangladesh versus Afghanistan is only 2 days away. The team has already, part of the team has left. The other part is leaving today. They're leaving in two parts. Where does Bangladesh start from? Because they have played ODI cricket, I think several months ago, back in March. They won the series against Sri Lanka. They play against Afghanistan, who also, they have played a few ODIs recently, but this is also part of their Champions Trophy preparation, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for both the teams, that's Champions Trophy's preparation, because Afghanistan would like to fix up their squad before the Champions Trophy. They have got another series against Zimbabwe where there are 3 ODIs. Their opener, the most notable thing is that they're missing their opener, Ibrahim Jatan, but right. At the same time, they've got Sadiqullah Tal, who is emerging as a next big prospect for Afghanistan. So they want to see how he fits into the squad. And they also don't have Mujib in the squad for his injury. And Ganzafar they would also like to see him if he can fit in or not. But what I feel is that for Bangladesh point of view, this is a huge series. What they've gone through for the last 1 month or say 2 weeks, last 2 or 3 weeks since here. I think this is a very big opportunity to regroup themselves just before the big tournament, because eventually everything is looking settled for Bangladesh apart from 1 or 2 things. But for both the teams, if they achieve something good here, that will also be a confidence booster for Afghanistan and for Bangladesh as well. But the playing in UAE for Afghanistan is much easier than for Bangladesh because it's more or less like their home soil. But Isam, what do you think? What will be the biggest challenge for Bangladesh in the Afghanistan series?
Obviously, Afghanistan as the opponent. I wanted to ask you before we get into Bangladesh. We'll have a lot of topics about Bangladesh, but Afghanistan recently beat South Africa in the UAE. What was that series win like? I mean, we didn't really talk about that. We have to mention it because you also cover Afghanistan for Crick Buzz. What was that series like, and what was the mood in the Afghanistan camp? This was a milestone series win for them, because that was the first time that they beat South Africa in a ODI series, I think.
I mean, Afghanistan's cricket boards mood have changed since the emerging cup. Because it's always that Afghans are coming against big teams. But they were never, they don't now they don't feel that they're a force to reckon. Now their mood is like that we can beat anyone. On our day, we can beat anyone. And on consistent level.
You're talking about the ACC Emerging Trophy in Oman.
Yeah, ACC Emerging Trophy. Right. After that win, all the senior players were talking with the juniors, and all the senior players were talking with their coaches, and said that this is when you achieve something, there's something that it's achievable. So after ACC win, emerging win, they have got that confidence. Because they can beat, why can't we? Because I think Nabi would like to end his career. This Champions Trophy is likely to be his.
Okay.
So there's a generation might also go away. So in that sense, that this is a very important series for Afghanistan. The South Africa win, they are not taking it very highly.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing, because they know that they can beat South Africa. Because if it was previously, 1 win for Afghanistan would always be a very inspiring thing. But nowadays, when I talk with them, what I see, what I understand is that they are not very happy with 1 win. They just want to win the series.
Atif bhai, because you cover both Afghanistan and Bangladesh for several years now, I think it's an interesting question that comes up in my mind sometimes. How does Afghanistan, in the last few years, they're certainly playing better cricket than Bangladesh. I think we have to admit that in certain phases. Maybe Bangladesh did beat them in a test match recently. I think last year they beat them. But we saw in the T20 World Cup how Afghanistan out-thought Bangladesh. Just one last question about Afghanistan that I've always wanted to know. There's not a lot of coverage of Afghanistan cricket, so we don't really know this part. Are they humble cricketers? Are they becoming big stars? Do they have that Bangladeshi problem of too much stardom, or how seriously do they take stardom?
They take stardom to an extent, but they're approachable.
Right.
They have a air with them, but provided you talk with them after years, they're approachable. And I think that what I want to tell you is that this Afghanistan win or this Afghanistan progress is not a fluke. I'm just telling you two things. They have recently introduced Coca-Cola in the first class tournament.
Right.
That's one thing that they've done because they want to do it. They've got 4 tournaments now. 2 T20 tournaments. Apart from Samiksa, there's another tournament.
Right.
2 50-over tournaments where all the players are all the national players are mandatory. In that Pakistan tournament, all the players played. And in other tournaments, they're making it like mandatory for them to play this. They're having camps in Kunduz, in Angahar, in Kabul, in different phases, because they're saying that we want to do camps in different phases because we want to provide different kind of conditions to the players. And more importantly, they are very much focused on good wickets. That is one thing. You will see Afghanistan, Isam, if I'm not wrong, you'll see Afghanistan play adventurous shot than Bangladesh.
Exactly. I think that's what the mindset is.
Yeah, and it's not that all the players are playing outside Afghanistan.
No. Yeah.
So you remember, you are in the press conference. Naturally, you were not there, but I remember that word. Taskin was saying that what others are playing, if you want to play, that will be hitting on a head. This wicket culture has really developed Afghanistan to a big way because they are always saying that we don't want our spinners to win our matches. We want our batsmen to score runs. And when we prepare good wickets, when the spinners do well, that is the time we understand that they are good spinners.
Correct.
Unlike Bangladesh, we see that the wicket is always turning. Their wicket is always batting strategies. So the spinners who are coming through the ranks, they have to work much harder than what we do here.
Got it.
This is the mindset that they're carrying. And I think this is a right mindset. If you know, they have increased their match fee by 3 times. From 2021 till now, their match fee has been increased. So these are little steps that Afghans are taking. Because they are not very media savvy. They don't talk much. They are not very approachable by certain media. So we don't know a lot of things that's happening in Afghanistan.
Right.
And as far as the cricketers are concerned, the board is not afraid to chop off anyone.
No one is bigger than the game.
No one is bigger than the game. And that was the first thing is that when they put a sanction on Fazlullah Farooqi and Mujib, they were the best in the business at that time. But for them, this discipline is very important.
Right.
I think that's one area where they excel from Bangladesh.
When we come to Bangladesh, Atif bhai, obviously the discussion right now for cricket analysts and former players and even the current players is whether Shanto wants to stay on as captain. The discussion was in a very inopportune time in the Bangladesh team because they were in the middle of a test match in Chattogram when before the test match you broke the news, I think, that Shanto doesn't want to continue as a captain and he has informed the board president of it. Very soon the news broke out and then the board directors knew about it. What we figured out later was that there was no actual discussion between Nazmul Hussain Shanto and Farooq Ahmed because Farooq Ahmed was abroad. He came, they spoke after the Chittagong test, and then we heard that we saw in the squad that the name for the Afghanistan series that Shanto will continue as ODI captain. My understanding of it is that I think because ODI is the next port of call, the next series, I think they convinced Shanto to continue. But I certainly don't believe that Shanto will be a captain in all 3 formats. I feel that perhaps they are trying to bring in 2 other captains. Farooq Ahmed spoke about Mehdi Hasan Miraj and Taskin Ahmed, who are relatively senior figures in this team. If you consider that the likes of Shakib Al Hasan, Tamim Iqbal, they're all gone from the team right now. There is no Mahmudullah and Mushfiq around, but they're no longer considered as captains because too senior, maybe at the end of their careers. This is a truly confusing state for Bangladesh. They haven't named the touring squads for West Indies, I think mainly because they're still talking to the captains and they're not sure. My understanding of it is clear that maybe they are looking for a new captain or a couple of new captains. Now they're going to split the captain into three. Um, I have a question for you, which is, do you think that Shanto perhaps was named too early, given that he had just got into a bit of form in 2023? That was his best year. That was a great year. It was a fantastic year. Right at the end of it, just because Shakib, I think, was injured at that time, he was named as the captain. Then Chandika Hathura Singh, for reasons best known to him, started to back Nazmul Hussain Shanto aggressively as the captain. Then Shanto became captain in February this year, and his form obviously dipped, and that was quite expected from a Bangladesh captain. I've covered a lot here, but do you think that this is the same that's going to happen? Like, firstly, whether it was early for Shanto to be the captain, and the same is going to happen to Mehdi Hasan Miraj, who could now be we're not going to say whether he's going to be the captain or not, but he's now called a front runner, one of the two front runners. Too early for him?
Yeah, I broke that news, but you have analyzed that news brilliantly in your piece in the chaos, and Bangladesh wanted to go out of that chaos. What I want to say is that Bangladesh always wanted to have the next generation of leadership group. And they wanted to have it even when there is Sakib and others. So when we saw Shanto leading the side in the World Cup, it was not surprising. You remember Shanto led in the World Cup?
One or two games, I think.
He still enjoys captaincy. I've spoken with him on several, even on that I've spoken, he still enjoys captaincy. But he's not very comfortable with all outside noise. This outside noise is making. I think that you just imagine a captain who is supposed to make plans with one coach, all out of nowhere knows that coach is not here, another coach is here. And from my understanding and from talking with the players, what I understand is that Hathura Singh had a very good chemistry with Shanto. He liked Shanto, and his chemistry with Shanto is to such an extent that it became, at times it was invious for others in the dressing room. He backed Shanto in a very aggressive manner. Shanto's captaincy was never too early. But Farooq Bhai convinced him to stay here. But the way he was pushed in the last couple of days, I think that as far as I know, he doesn't have a Facebook account. But he has got a lot of friends who have got this account. So the trolling and all these things that happened to him had a very huge impact on his mind. And at times he feels that his quote were misquoted. Just because he made a statement like, I should give a status in the Facebook, the way it was projected, he was hurt by this thing. Because he just wanted to say that on a very light note, but it was projected in a different manner. I think right now Farooq Bhai is thinking of Mehdi Hasan Miraj. Anyone, if he wants to give the captaincy to Miraj, one thing is that for Shanto's case, and for the previous case, there's two different things. I think in the previous case, we had Mashmid Murtuja, who was accepted by all. Then came the Sakib and Tamim phase. They had other groups of them, but Mashrafi managed to keep everyone in one side. When this Shanto, Miraj, Tawfiq and all these names are coming up, I just want them to be united as far as the captaincy goes. Because Farooq Bhai is the one who introduced split captaincy, if I'm not wrong. You remember?
Back then.
The biggest problem with split captaincy in Bangladesh is that when there's a split captain, when you are captain in your own format, you are in a different mood. When you are going to my format, you are in a different mood. So if they can make sure that this will not happen, only this Bangladesh can progress. I think for Shanto, that was not too early. But if he doesn't want to continue, pushing him to continue won't be a wise thing. Because if I'm not wrong, if you see, Shanto is he's a talented batsman, but more than his talent, he works on his cricket very much. Because of the captaincy issues, he has to compromise his time as far as his preparation is concerned. So I think that's one area that we do. And Farooq Bhai is trying to bring in Mehdi Hasan Miraj and Taskin Ahmed. I've also heard the name of Tawfiq Jizoy at some point. So whether they give them captaincy or not, whether he sticks with one captaincy, Farooq Bhai need to make sure that all the captains different captains will be in the same wavelength and will be applying themselves in the same motivation when they go to other formats.
Atif, I also think that apart from the coach change, the big thing that happened before the Dhaka test was the Shakib exclusion at the last moment. The way the team played in the two test matches, we'll talk about those technical issues later, but I think there was a very big emotional hole for the team to take care of. It was a very short turnaround, because the moment the students came to the gate of Sher-e-Bangla National Stadium, apparently,
And an effigy.
burned an effigy. Apparently, that was it. That was the end of the story for Shakib, which I felt was a bit too rushed. I don't know where that decision came from. Which, I mean, I don't want to be politically incorrect, but a political decision coming into a squad when you have already fought for, you want to reduce the political influence on sports, whoever has said that. If you want to do that, this was a big call, whether you want to have politics in the Bangladesh team or not, whether you wanted to remove that element or not. The argument here can be that Shakib is a divisive figure as far as politics is concerned. He had joined the Awami League. He was an MP back in January for the last he lasted as an MP for, I think, 8 months. I don't think he's done anything as an MP. But of course, him joining Awami League makes him a political figure. There's no doubt about that. So you already have eliminated a lot of things politically from Bangladesh cricket, at least on the what you call on the shallow side, on the side that you can see. But if you go slightly in the depth, it's extremely difficult to remove all the political elements for Bangladesh cricket board or wider Bangladesh cricket. For that test match, I felt that Shanto had a plan with Hathura Singh. Shanto had a plan with Shakib Al Hasan. You took out two big weapons out of his hand. I know Shakib's powers was possibly at the end of the line in Test cricket, but this was going to be his last Test match. The players had planned a lot, and I think you'll remember that after that first Rawalpindi Test, when Shakib was named in that murder case, the players gave a Facebook post where that's the question that came up in the press conference: whether are you going to give a Facebook post about Shakib now? And Shanto looked very frustrated with that answer. That is everything going to be fixed with the Facebook post? Let me do that. I think that was a sure shot sign. And then when your news came out, I think for me that was a sure shot sign that there was a lot of frustration in Shanto's captaincy part, that he couldn't really control a selection. Of course, he can't control who's going to be the coach. But as a captain, he has seen powerful captains. He has played under powerful captains. He made his debut during Mashrafi Mortuza's time. He played under Shakib. He played under Tamim. He saw these people were powerful. He possibly had the idea that a Bangladesh captain was above a few things. But apparently no longer. Bangladesh Cricket Board president is also not that powerful anymore. I think we as journalists have also found out, and we were surprised by how I think both of us started our careers at a time when Bangladesh board president weren't that powerful. Then they became very powerful through Nazmul Hasan Papon and I think AHM Mustafa Kamal, obviously, Lotus Kamal. But then right now we are seeing a board president who is already pulling his hand up and saying, well, I'm not at all powerful. I'm just a cricket board president. Whether he wants to be that way, I don't know. But through a lot of things, we could see that this has been a very difficult time for a captain like Shanto, who I have enjoyed his captaincy, frankly. I've really enjoyed his captaincy. But when you take out the coach 6 days from a test series in that clumsy manner, and when you take out one of your best players in that clumsy way, the captaincy suffers, the team suffered. And now we are having to discuss the fact that Farooq Ahmed said that Shakib is reluctant to play against Afghanistan, in the UAE. Do you think Shakib will be there for West Indies and Champions Trophy? Will Shakib be acceptable as a Bangladesh cricketer? Sorry, loaded question.
That's the biggest thing, because whether Shakib will be accepted in the dressing room, Shakib will naturally be accepted in the dressing room. But will the fans accept him is a big question. But one thing is that even though Shakib was not playing the first test, he was very much in the first test. In the gallery, they were shouting, Shakib, Shakib.
Of course.
So, what I feel is that the decision was quite hasty. Bangladesh, because at one point, Shakib was willing to come and he came to UAE to come to Bangladesh.
Yeah,
then he had to return back.
Yeah.
So what happened in just 48 hours that everything had to change? I'm not sure whether it's true or not, but someone was telling me that it was a plan that Saqib gave that post, Facebook post. They made it sure that he gave that Facebook post where he apologized for everything he did. Until that time, he kept his mouth shut as far as all the student movement was concerned. He gave that Facebook post, and after that Facebook post, it was done for him.
Like it was like before the Facebook post, I think the sports advisor said that he should make his political stance clear. He did that with that post. I think October 12th.
Exactly.
During that.
I'm remembering, but that Facebook page made his.
No, Atif, it was during that 30-20, during that game.
Yeah, but that Facebook post always made him clear about his stance.
Yes.
Then what is the problem now? What the boards told me and some of the officials told me that they don't want to risk anything by bringing in Saqib because they have already lost the women's T20 to UAE and they don't want to create any noise. If that is the case, then he is not fit to play anywhere because there will be Bangladeshi fans in West Indies also.
Yes.
There will be Bangladeshi fans in Championship also.
Wherever it is played.
They might throw stones at him or throw their shoes at him like the way the BCB projected. Right. That if anything happens, who will be responsible? If you are thinking that he is not safe in his own country, then how can he be safe there? Because someone who wants to throw stones to Saqib can throw it in a championship. He can throw it. So it was. And the second question is very important. Does this board really run by its own? Or all the decisions taken by Farooq Bhai is his own decision? Or now he has been, in a way, government is dictating the terms. I was just laughing around. Someone told me that, okay, now the time has come that NSC is also putting pressure on Farooq Bhai. Isam, how do you see this, that NSC is putting pressure? 2 letters came to Farooq Bhai. How do you see this, that Farooq Bhai recently excluded 11 directors from his post? And he recently formed a subcommittee for reformation of constitution.
Naming only one person.
But the
thing
is,
Atif Bhai, the question here actually should be, so now we know those 11 directors were out because they were not showing up. They were missing, so-called missing. You had Jalal Yunus and Ahmed Sajjad Alam no longer in the board. Jalal Yunus resigned and Bobby Bhai was removed. You had Khalid Mahmood resigning, Enayat Shiraz resigning, and Naimur Ahmad Dujjar resigning. So you had 11 plus 3, 14, 16 gone. You had 8 left, and you had 2 additional directors, Farooq Ahmed and Nazmul Abedin Fahim coming in. The question is not about how will the board perform without these 11. The question is how many board directors are actually being used by Farooq Ahmed. If he has named Nazmul Abedin Fahim in the Constitution Reform Committee, from what we have seen in that press release, who else is with them right now? Because you have other board directors, you have competent people. You have Mabu Anam, you have Qazi Inam Ahmed, you have the former captain Akram Khan. They are all with the board right now. Now, whether Farooq Ahmed wants to work with them or not, because from what I understand, Farooq Ahmed worked with Mabu Anam long time. He has worked with Akram Khan in previous boards. I think they were colleagues in the selection committee at some point. And I think they're relatives as well. You have others who have worked in the cricket board before. The question here is, as you said, the NSC sent 2 letters to Farooq Ahmed or the cricket board. I think if the NSC had sent a letter to Nazmul Hasan Papon during his time, we would never have heard of it. Or someone in the cricket board would just put it in another file that it's not required, because the NSC, because of the way the board was at that time, because of the way it was functioned. And we should also remember that Nazmul Hasan Papon was the sports minister and the cricket board president, so it didn't really matter. And the NSC didn't matter for a long time. They were the custodians of the stadiums. The only time we heard about them was when we journalists wrote something about the stadium's maintenance or facilities, and someone from the board would have said it's NSC's business, they would do it. Right now, because of how the government is run, You have one of the student movement leaders, these as a sports advisor, which I think was a good move. Which first of all was a good move, and I think if he sees a lot of things that needs to be done in Bangladesh Cricket Board, he has every right to say it. He has the right to say it, because if you are going to reform the country, if you are going to correct things in the country, Bangladesh cricket is huge. You have to reform that as well. There's a lot of things to reform. If the cricket board is not making any moves, and I've read the 2 letters, in very nice way, they have said, where is your investigation of corruption? And they have said, what has happened with those directors who are missing? They've missed meetings. They're supposed to do something. So I'm also very confused what the cricket board is trying to do with. I think they have, from what we can see, I'm not going to say functional. I'm going to say there are only 3 board directors who are visible right now. Farooq Ahmed, the board president, Nazmul Abedin Fahim, and Fahim Sinha. They are being seen everywhere. There's a lot of new faces or old faces. New faces for journalists who joined, or people who have been following cricket for the last few years or the last decade, and old faces for people like us who've been in cricket throughout our life. So we know them. We know those people, and they have been working in cricket for a long time, but they were kept out by that regime. So they are now coming over. We're seeing them. It's good that it's still cricket people. We're not seeing outsiders yet. Farooq Ahmed has to take a decision what he wants to do with the subcommittees, because, okay, if you think that only 3 people can run the cricket board, you might as well. Why don't you go and try it? But I think when stuff like the BPL comes up, when stuff like bigger tournaments come up, the Dhaka Premier League comes up, I don't think 3 people are going to run the cricket. You're going to need board directors. You cannot run Dhaka League, BPL, or any other big tournament in Bangladesh with your board employees. Board employees can facilitate a series, a bilateral series at home. Bangladesh doesn't really have any more. I think they have the next one is in August or something. So who's going to run the cricket board? We don't really know that. We have a selection panel led by Ghazi Ashraf Hussain. They're doing their job. Commendable, the fact that Farooq Ahmed doesn't comment on the cricket, doesn't talk about selection. Till now, he hasn't. And he obviously cannot do that because he has set that standard by leaving the cricket board in 2016, saying that the president cannot interfere or, come into the picture of selection. All well and good. But the cricket board is not just selection. Cricket board is not just the Bangladesh team. Cricket board is not just Shanto's captaincy. You have to set a policy. There's a board election coming up next October or whenever. Because now you have, as we just mentioned, I think 16 gaps, vacated spots. You're going to need them. If you have built a constitution with 25 directors, there are spots in this cricket board. This cricket board is shaped by the constitution.
Exactly.
So you cannot just say that I'm going to run it with 3 people. Then you change the constitution completely and say that only 5 people will run Bangladesh cricket. We'll accept it if you give us reason for that. Because a lot of us know that 25 directors are not needed. But a lot of us also understand that if there is a constitution in place, you have to adhere by it. I think right now there's a lot of things happening in this country which people are questioning. We have to be patient in the country, in economic policies, political field, everything. Those are slow processes that will happen. That will happen. But I think cricket, it's just one building close to your house. We go there every day. I think they can manage it. It's not that difficult. I think it's just, obviously Farooq Ahmed is being influenced by how the country is being run. But if he understands the changing winds or the changing waves, he has to take some decisions which are proactive. Cricket has to be run by cricket people, Atif. You cannot bring in outsiders, because we have seen it being tried before. We have seen how Beximco tried to run cricket and they have run it to the ground. They have just taken out clubs, and I can be honest about it. It's not as if we don't know about it. Outsiders have a hard time running cricket. It took them 15 years. They still didn't understand what was going on. So that is my point of view. You obviously cover this part as well. Perhaps best, you understand this better than most because you spend so much time at the cricket board. How is it? What shape is it going to take next? Is it going to be a 3-man show? Are they going to do something about it? Are they going to, do something about it before the BPL?
Look, Isam, what Faruk is doing just proves one thing, that he doesn't have trust on other board directors. That is one thing that is for sure.
So he doesn't trust the other board directors.
Other board directors apart from these two. Because if you have full trust on the board directors, then you might have to give the responsibility. One of the reasons why Khaled Mahmood opted to resign, and he told me in person that whether I do anything or not, it will not be acceptable. Or they might not give me a chance to do anything. So why should I stay in this board? So Faruk Bhai has to give responsibility to his fellow board director if he has that trust. Or like you just mentioned, that he can have the constitution reform by that global time. I'm not sure how much he understands constitution. Because for me, constitution reform, it should have been done by Mohammad. If you want to know someone about constitution, then Mohammad is the best person. So
I'll just add something here, Atif. Sorry. I think if you're talking about the constitution, Bangladesh cricket's constitution was written by certain individuals who are still active, who are still very sharp. One of them is Syed Ashraful Haq. I think Bangladesh Cricket Board has always kept it as a closed club, very tight grip on everything. I think you have to let it go now. If you don't have enough directors, you form an independent committee or an independent panel. You bring Ashraful Haq, and I would have asked them to bring Sabir Hossain Chaudhary, but I think he's not politically acceptable right now. But Ashraful Haq he is in a way the person who gave birth to Bangladesh cricket in the international arena. You bring him in. Of course, Nazmul Abidin Fahim is a very educated person. He can understand. You bring someone from this generation as well.
No, but I think that one thing is what I really want to know is that there's a lot of corruption. Where is that independent audit committee? They gave a news that in the press conference that we're going to form an independent audit committee. I just wanted to have all these corruption cases. Where is an independent body? Because we have seen other countries falling into this kind of problem, have always formed an independent body who is not working in board. Faruk Bhai, first of all, does not. I'm very sorry to say, with all due respect, his board directors, the board director that is having now, they are categorically does not believe that they are part of the board, apart from this.
They're not even send the agendas for the meetings from whatever.
Yeah, they don't even send the agenda. They just, when they come around, it's like that I've done this, I've done that, and you're right. If this is the environment that Faruk Bhai wants to create, then it's better to say that 5 men will run Bangladesh Cricket Board. 5 capable men will run Bangladesh Cricket Board. Few days back, some of the banks have come to sponsor. I've asked them, marketing team, what about this sponsor? They said that everything is done by Faruk Bhai. He's seeing the marketing, he's seeing the logistics, he's seeing Faruk Bhai alone. He's seeing marketing, logistics, as well as the cricket operations, and to an extent, grounds committee, because there was a meeting between coach, Shanto, and Farooq Ahmed ahead of the test series against South Africa, whereas I was very surprised to know that Mohammad was not in that meeting.
Right.
He should be the one who should be in the meeting. Instead of Faruk Bhai, he should be the one who was supposed to be in the meeting.
Not instead of Faruk Bhai, at least he should be in that meeting. Yeah.
So you got it. So that's with Gamini, the meeting was happening with Gamini.
Right.
So what I understand is Faruk Bhai need to give a proper plan and need to give the assurance to the board directors that no, you are my man. Because if he is not giving this assurance, there's one thing that can have that I might feel that he is having at the back of his mind that they were men from the past regime.
Right.
So he cannot trust them. If that is the case, he should let them know. Or if he is asked by the government not to give them responsibility, even that he should let them know.
Yeah. That should be made clear.
That should be made clear because someone like Iftikhar Mithu, someone like Kajianam, or someone like Season, or say, what is the Salahuddin of Gaji, they're attending the board meeting, but they cannot make a call.
And these are people, Atif Bhai, who, say, for example, you mentioned Iftikhar Mithu. He handles the umpiring committee. He has done it well.
Yeah.
He changed it, right? And he's a very acceptable character in Bangladesh cricket. Everyone trusts him with such an important position. I don't think he. We have a few leagues coming up where the umpiring will come into the question. You have Qazi Inam, who has done one part of. He has come up with Bangladesh Tigers, and we can say that it was a bit of a game changer ahead of the Pakistan series.
Exactly.
And then when you don't use it properly, it becomes a problem for Bangladesh team. You have someone like Mahbub Anam, wealth of experience. Now, if you don't have Jalal Yunus, if you don't have Ahmed Sajjadul Alam, you have Mahbub Anam, who has that experience, who has that face of, an acceptable face of Bangladesh.
I just want to know from what is the most important committee of Bangladesh Cricket Board?
Cricket operations.
Who is running it?
I don't know.
They had a chairman.
Right.
In Jalal Yunus, he is not here.
He's not there.
They had a vice chairman in Khalid Mansur, he is also not here. Then who is running the show?
Right.
It's not the fact about game development because they had a chairman in Khalid Mahmood, they had a vice chairman in Fahim Sinha.
Still there.
Who is still there and who is running it. But what about cricket operations? One of the coaches told me that I don't know whom I'm answerable to. Whom I'm accountable to.
And we're talking about a cricket board which is top heavy. Historically top heavy. So you cannot just tell someone that, okay, go to that second person or third person because that second or third person is not going to take responsibility. Atif, you're done with the off the field stuff, right?
Yeah, I just want that Faruk should start giving more responsibility to the other board directors if he wants to keep them in his board.
We'll switch to on-field activities. The Halloween week that Bangladesh cricket had in Dhaka and Charakam. There are a lot of theories to it. There are a lot of interesting talking points, obviously, but the horror show that we were all subjected to in, I think, 3 batting innings that Bangladesh had. And of course, South Africa scoring 577 runs, but 575 runs in Chittagong. But we will speak about batting. I think we'll let the bowlers go because they have done an amazing job in the last few months in trying situations. They have one thing to learn from the bowlers is that they use the conditions well and they often respond to conditions adverse to them very well as well. So I think that's where the batters are really, really lacking. What has caught your eye in this test series about the batters?
That 2 dismissal of Mushfiqur in the second test.
Okay.
I think that summarizes the thing. In the first innings, he just wanted to chip in and that got out. In the second innings, he swept. When a batsman of Mushfiqur's caliber does not take the total responsibility, then it becomes a problem. I think along with that, what I see is that we have always been struggling against swing. I mean, Rabada, he did good. He bowled well. But there are a couple of wickets that we have also thrown away. Because I think Sadman could have handled the situation in a different way. Or say, Zakir in one could have handled it differently. Because most of the time what we are doing is that Isam, from a very, you have played cricket, you know one thing, that the defense should be defense. I mean, when you are defending, there should be no other thing going into your mind apart from that defense that I want the ball to defend. But probably because of playing so many formats, they are now not defending in the proper manner. They are trying to get a run from a defense. You see the way they got caught up.
You're saying they push the ball.
They just push the ball.
Right.
Instead of pushing the ball, if you just let your soft hand dictate, then that's a different story. Because why we are doing this? If I can read a batsman's mind, and through all the books that I've read, when you are not very confident about your own defense is the time when you start pushing your ball. Am I wrong or right?
No, perfect.
If you are very confident that no matter who is bowling, I can defend this ball, then that's one way of approaching it.
Yeah.
But if you're in 2 minds, this I might get out or something like that, then the only thing that comes into your mind is that, okay, then let's try to have a run.
Right.
So in Test cricket, if you want to do well, we have to have that confidence that we can defend well.
Right.
One thing. Another thing is that we actually are not very capable players against spinners. Against capable spinners. The way Maharaj troubled, or that other spinner, Muthuswamy troubled, only proves that we failed to handle capable spinners well.
Now, a lot of people will say that India couldn't handle Santner, Rajas Patel.
Exactly.
That's one question. What bothered me in this test series completely was how childish the planning was, how juvenile the thinking was. Where I'll tell you, I hope Phil Simmons addresses these things. The press box could, because we have watched so much cricket, we could predict a wicket better than the South African team sometimes. South Africa got surprised by Bangladesh's incompetence this year. I think I was reading an interview where somewhere, I think in Sun, the Tenba Bavuma said we expected more.
Yeah.
I think that was,
Probably.
we tried to get that out of South Africa in all the press conferences, but they were very respectful of Bangladesh. But it's true. I think they were surprised by how poor Bangladesh was. The press box predicted a wicket or at a period he's going to do this. They did it. I think that proves at least one thing, that Bangladesh were mentally absolutely nowhere in this test match. Number one. If you talk about Hathura Singh's exit, if you talk about Shakib's farewell not happening, come on, man, this is international cricket. You have to deal with these things. And you are playing for Bangladesh. The country is in so much change, right? So you handled outside noise so well in Pakistan. What happened here? What happened? What happens in a Dhaka test? What happens in a Chattogram test? I don't understand. That's one. The second thing is they have these strange little, they take matchups very seriously. They have this very, I would call it an illness of stretching their batting order right up.
But what's the point?
Atif bhai, if you have 6 batters,
Or
if
seven,
you have,
six
say you
batters
have
and all-round.
Litton at 6, Mehdi at 7, you have 4 bowlers who can't bat. Media will, first thing that the media will do, they will ask someone about it. And someone will come, I'm not blaming the media for it, but it's quite normal. Do you have a long tail? Then the talk starts about long tail. We come back to 8 batsmen again. We can't have a long tail. We need to. When the top order knows we have Mehdi at 8 or 9, you're going to bat like that. You're going to have
exactly.
Zakir charge.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah. Childish. If you think, and look at India now, 9 batters, it's not working because whatever you say, any batting lineup, whether they're experienced or not, if they know that there is I think it's an economic term. If you don't have enough resources, you'll have to make do with whatever resources you have. At home, if you don't have dal or bhat, you're going to have to do with roti, right?
Exactly.
So if you have dal, bhat, roti, someone in the house is going to say, well, I'm going to have everything. Then you're going to start having,
And someone will go and try pizza because that's not there.
That's not there. So now, I think these are very childish things to do, to have 8, 9 batsmen. You cannot go into a test match with 4 bowlers when you don't have Shakib.
I think that one of the biggest problems Domingo faced is that he could not make them understand. One day he told me that if my first 6 batters don't respond, then I don't have any faith that 7 and 8 will make a partnership.
Yeah.
You see, these days, you just go through the Facebook comments. We lose 4 wickets, then we start saying that our batting order starts now.
Batting order starts now. You forget Facebook comments. We are talking about the general public like us, right? A coach comes and says, we have the belief that when we are 6 for 26 or 8 for 47, someone is going to win us games. That cannot be a belief.
No,
take that out of your mentality.
Exactly. So that's the thing. And another thing is that Bangladesh, as far as Bangladesh, from batting point of view, I was reading Daily Star today in the morning that decision making and all these things, the decision making is, we had poor decision making, everything, all this thing. I think these words have been spoken times and times again. We need to make them understand that either you value your wicket or we go for a separate. Yeah. Because you see that from the last, I was just going through the stats. According to the stats, Mohammad is the highest scorer here, along with Medias and Midas in test. So what is working for him? On every test series, he's scoring a 50. From the Sri Lanka series, he's scoring 100. Yeah. So something is working for him. So why not the other batsmen go and see what is working for him? Right. I think that the biggest problem for Bangladesh is that unless Liton Kumar Das scored runs, we don't have the belief that we can win this match.
Right.
So why doesn't Liton score runs quick or consistently? And that's the question that whether the dressing room had that environment that made it not score runs. Because when you have a very confusing dressing room, with the captain even more confused, then results are not going to come.
Absolutely. If just look at the physicality of it, the dressing room is like 5 meters from where the protests are happening. If you are listening to those things, if that road outside Mirpur Stadium is empty, you know something is wrong. I think it's a mental issue as well.
Exactly.
You know, you respected Shakib, whether you liked him or not, that's a different thing. But in that dressing room, you will not have a single person come out publicly to say that, well, I didn't like Shakib, I'm really happy that he's gone. They were supposed to give him a farewell. I think they wanted, from a player's point of view, that was an insult to them. So they felt bad.
And more so the insult was more because they felt that because a player is at the top, he would make all the arrangements so that Shakib have a good farewell.
Yeah.
Or by being a player.
And again, I would say when that didn't happen, you should have switched your mind into match mode. Okay, forget it. We'll show them. We'll play well and show them that we are better than all.
And I think Farooq Bhai, before ending this thing, I think one thing is that Farooq Bhai, what mistake he did is that he should have said here in the last press conference whether Shakib is available for championship or not. Because this will keep into their mind.
It'll go on till January next year.
Yeah. He should say that no, our government has not approved that, or our government has approved that. But he should make it
it as clear as possible.
And as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
Because this is when you are saying that he will see the T10 league, he will see how he feels, whether he's capable enough of returning back to all these things. Then it's quite messy, I think.
This will continue. This mess will continue for a long time. Atif, we will sign off today's show. Daily Cricket presents Crick Talk. I hope you enjoyed the show. You will get this show on YouTube video, on Facebook videos, and Spotify audio if you want to listen to this show. We will be back to you quite soon. This is goodbye from Mohammad, Isam, and Atif Azam.